Hello, everyone. I wanted to report back about my first North Carolina trip. I just got back from North Carolina a few days ago with my second trip, but I wanted to finish up today, hopefully, about my first trip. And so, first I want to say thank you to everyone who has given for both of these trips. Some of you have given for the first trip to North Carolina. Some of you have given for the second trip, and some of you have given for both trips. And I just want to say thank you for that. You know, in 2 Corinthians 9:10, God says that he gives seed to the sower. And so when you give seed, you're sowing, and God's going to bless you back. You know, when we give, we get back. But we don't give to get, but when we give, we do get. And so I just wanted to throw that in there. And so I want to back up before I tell you about the $500. I forgot to tell you about the college night. So the pastor there, Pastor Scott, told the team one evening when we got back from working, he said they're giving away, they're having free suppers or dinners at the Appalachian State College. And so let's all get together and go up there and we'll have a free dinner together. And so we all went up there. There was probably maybe 15 or 20 of us, and we were in the college, the state college, and we were having dinner in the cafeteria. I mean, they had everything. They had entree, they had burgers and hot dogs. It was like a Fur's cafeteria or something. They had everything you could imagine, even down to the desserts. And so we were all sitting there together, and as I finished eating, the Lord spoke to me and said, Wanda, I want you to let me show you someone in here who I want you to minister to. So I was like, okay, Lord, and I want you to give them some money, because you remember I had been given $1,400 to give away, which I'd give some away by this time, but it still had some. And so I got up from the table, and I was kind of pacing back and forth in the college. There was hundreds of people there. I was just kind of scanning the crowd like, Lord, who do you want me to talk to? Who do you want me to give money to? And so I was just pacing back and forth. Well, I noticed that Cassy was laughing, and I went over and I was like, what are you laughing at? And she said, I just told David, he was one of the people with us working, that you were scouting, that you were looking around trying to find somebody to witness to or give money to. And I said, you're absolutely right. And so I'm pacing back and forth, and they're all over there fellowshipping, and all of a sudden my phone rings. Well, my sister-in-law has me on 360, and I had added her a while back, or my daughter had. And so anyway, so she had kind of been watching my trip, and so she was on the phone, and she said, Wanda, are you in a college? And I said, yes. And I said, I'm in the Appalachian State College. And she said, okay, because I have you on 360. But she said, are you pacing? And I said, yes, I'm pacing. And I said, why? And she said, well, I see these little tennis shoes walking back and forth. And I thought, I'm going to call her and see if she's in a college and why she's in a college and why she's pacing back and forth. And so I explained to her what I was doing, that I had finished eating, and I was waiting for the Lord to show me who to minister to and who to give some money to. So I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, so I hung up the phone, and I was walking and praying and looking, and then it's like the Lord just zeroed in on somebody. It was a couple, a man and his wife. I found out they were married. And so I went over and I introduced myself, and I was talking to them, just asking them if they were locals, if they had suffered any damage, you know, things like that. And they said yes, they had lost their home in the flood, and 2 vehicles, and they had a son. I believe they said he was 7 or 8 years old. I can't remember their names. But anyway, so they said they had been staying in a shelter, and the son had been staying with a grandparent, and they had borrowed a car, and they had been coming up there every evening to eat at the college. And so I asked them if they knew the Lord as their Savior. And the lady looked at me and she said, yes, ma'am. And she said, but I don't think he does. And so I turned to him and I asked him if he knew the Lord. You know, if you had died in this terrible flood, would you have gone to heaven or hell? because there's only 2 places to go. And so he was like, well, not really. And so I asked him if he would like to secure that today. And he said yes, but I don't really want to do it here in front of everybody. So I again told him how to pray. When he got in his quiet time, he assured me he would, and I believe that he did. And so anyway, so I just thought that it was a funny story that my sister-in-law Pam had called me and saw me pacing on the 360. But the Lord had also ministered to this couple through me and given them some money. I told them I was all the way from Springtown, Texas, and that God loved them so much that he wanted to bless them. And so anyway, so let me get back to the $500. So I told you that I had gotten the $500 from someone from my church. I won't name their name. And it wasn't Senor Pablo. It was another family. And they wanted me to give the whole $500 to a family. And so a couple of days later, a whole bunch of us went out together. Normally they divided us into teams, but they had sent a bunch of us together this particular day. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe we were on a road called Watauga Road, which possibly might have been leading up to Watauga Lake. I don't know. But we were going up the river, and we got to some houses that were on stilts, kind of like beach houses. And these houses had still gotten water and mud in them, 3, 4, 5 foot deep. And so we were working, all of us were working on one house, and it was pretty crowded in there because we were trying to rake up the floors with shovels and tear out sheetrock. And so I went to the team leader and I said, you know, it's pretty crowded with all these. How about I just go up the river scouting and see who else needs help? And she said, you know, that's a good idea. She said, well, take Cassy with you. So Cassy and I left the car there and went scouting up the river, and we were walking. The houses were very far apart, some of them half a mile or more. So we were walking up the river. It's beautiful up there, and I told Cassy, I said, you know, there's black bears in these woods and coyotes and maybe wolves. I don't know what all's out there. And but I wasn't even afraid because I knew the Lord was with us all the way. And so we were walking along there, and we see this truck coming down the road towards us, and there's 2 men in it. And Cassy reaches down and picks up a big old stick, and I looked at her and I said, what are you going to do with that stick? And she said, well, you know, here comes 2 guys towards us in a truck, and we're up in the middle of nowhere in these mountains, 2 girls alone. I think I might need a stick. Well, I started looking around for me a stick, but before I could find one, they were upon us. Well, it turns out they were just 2 good old boys out trying to help people. And they had actually written on their truck with a mark-a-lot, 2 good old boys, not meaning no harm, just wanting to help people. And so they said, where are y'all from? What are y'all doing? And we told them we were from Texas and had come to help people. And so they were like, oh, wow, you're 2 bad beep girls from Texas. And so we kind of laughed about that. But anyway, so we talked with them, and they were telling us about this house we had just passed. It was a green house, and it was up on stilts, but it had gotten like 5 or 6 foot of water and mud in it. And they were telling us that they had been helping with that house, a young couple, but they didn't know where the young couple was right now. But they had really helped them a lot, and used chainsaw and cut some trees and different things, and helped them get stuff out of their house that was moldy and mildewed. So anyway, so we kept on walking up the mountain, and we met a lady named Helene that was coming down her driveway, and I stopped her, and we talked to her, and I talked with her and asked her if she was a Christian. She was. She belonged to a local church, and she was born again. And I asked her about the couple in the green house, if she knew them, and she said, oh yes, I know them very well. She said their names are Ron and Kayla, and they have just lived there for a year. They've been married a year, newlyweds, didn't have any insurance on their house, and she said they lost everything and they are distraught. And I was like, wow. And so I asked her if she knew where they were, and she said, well, they're staying in one of my Airbnbs right now close to me, but I don't know where they are right now. They might have went into town for something. And I asked Eileen if the young couple knew the Lord, and she said, I don't think so. She said, I was working on them with that, and then this happened, and they're just they're not sure why God let this happen. And so anyway, when she said that, the Lord said to me, that's the family that's getting the $500. And so I was like, okay, Lord. So I told Eileen, I said, well, would you do me a favor? When you see them, would you give them my phone number and or call them if you have their number and tell them I have some money to give them? And she said, okay. And so we hiked on up the mountain. We went up some steep mountains to some houses. I mean, they were like this. Came back down, and so we set up on a porch with one couple that had originally came from New England somewhere. We talked to a lot of people, asked them about their salvation. We was coming back down the mountain, and when we got back to my car that evening, before time to head back to the church offices, as we were leaving, my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, and I thought, well, maybe that's that young man calling me. And so I kind of went back to where the Starlink was, where we were working, and it was the young man. And I asked him where he was, and he said he was in Boone at the grocery store. And I said, well, listen, I'm staying at the Greystone Lodge, my cousin and I, Cassy. Would you meet us there in a half hour? I have something to give you. And he said, okay. And so we went back down to the lodge, and they were there waiting for us. And we got out of the car, and they were standing there, and I began to talk to them and just asked them their story. And you could tell they were really distraught. And I told them, you know, that Jesus loved them, and the young man replied something to the lines of, well, I don't know how God could do this to us or to anybody else. He was not happy with the Lord. And so I continued to witness to him, and Cassy was filming me with their permission. I didn't post it on social media, but I wanted to film it for the family that had given the $500 so I could show that I gave the money away. And so anyway, so I continued to talk to him, and I told him, I said, Ron and Kayla, Jesus does love you. Jesus didn't do this. This is the work of the enemy. Jesus loves you. And I want to tell you that he loves you so much that he sent these two country girls from Springtown and Newark, all the way up here to Boone, North Carolina, to give you some money. I said, it's not much compared to what you've lost, but it's a little start to help you, and it's just a token of Jesus saying to you, Ron and Kayla, I do love you, and I'm for you, and I'm not against you. And so I counted out the $500 to them, and they both teared up and continued to witness to them. And then I gave them the Pastor Scott's number in Boone at the Antioch Church. And when I got back to the church offices, I gave him their information. And I have their number. I have checked on them periodically. And but when I got back to the church offices, one of the team leaders said, Wanda, I don't know what you said to that young couple today, but you changed their lives, and now they want to know the Lord. And so God is just so good, you know. It just blessed me so much, because it's not even me, it's just God. He gets all the glory. We're his hands and his feet. We're supposed to be doing this. We're supposed to be doing this because Jesus said, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men unto me. And that's what we're supposed to do. And so I found out later that the pastor had contacted them. I believe they're going to church there now. And I found out later that they also received a brand new RV, fully stocked for them to live in, free of charge with the title from some agency. I don't know who gave it to them, but it was just God. And so anyway, so I wanted to share that with you. This will probably be my last broadcast about this particular trip. Like I said, I just recently got back from North Carolina again. I went to Asheville, and God made a way. And so I'm going to close this trip out with this post here. But before I go, I want to show you my book. It's called Direct Line, God's Listening. Back in May of 23, I'd been trying to write a book all my life. Let me say that. It never happened. Back in May of 2023, I had a dream one night, and Jesus appeared to me and I saw him from his bottom lip down to his waist, and he had on his white robe. And he said to me, "Wanda, it's time to write your book. Write it now, and here's the name of it, Direct Line." And I woke up and I was shook to my core. I wrote the first sentence of this book that night. 5 months later, the book was completed, and in 9 months it was on Amazon. This book is my testimony. It tells some about me and my early life, but it gives so many testimonies of bona fide Red Sea crossing miracles, I call them, that God did. And so if you haven't ordered this, it's on Amazon. I promise you it will build your faith in Him. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube page, it is Wanda D. Rogers, all one word, at Direct Line Ministries. And so I would love for you to go and subscribe to my page. Until next time, I will sign off and say I love each and every one of you. I appreciate you, and I pray God's blessings on you today.